Everybody, this is Maverick Roche, and this is part 2 of how to build a drift trike, a motorized 125cc and bigger pit motor drift trike. And so part 1, I showed you guys how to build the frame, the measurements, how to put it together, where to put it together, where to weld, as well as bearings and axle and everything else. So that being said, this is what I've done so far since that last video, and so let's get to it and I will show you. So here it is. This is what I've done so far. In part 1, I showed you guys the measurements on how to weld those, the measurements, the lengths, the widths, the bar, bearings, everything else on what you guys need to build. This section, these are my tires. I have yet to get this milled and worked on, but these are tires I picked up from a junkyard for $5 a piece, which, as you can see, if you guys know anything about go-kart tires, let's see if I can find one right there. These were roughs, so if you can still see these holes, your tires are still good, especially when you're gonna have slicks on them anyways. So there they are. So all I've done so far is we found a motor. It's a 125cc pit bike motor that we will be able to turbo down the road. So this bar right here was at 28 inches, and we cut it down to 18 inches to fit the motor and also to fit my body height at 6 feet. So what we did is we went onto Craigslist and we found this baby. It was a Mongoose BMX bike, not a super high-end one, because it really doesn't matter what brand you use for a bike. So what we did is we went and we took it all the way apart, and right where the top of the frame is, we cut it, and we cut everything off down to here. So the only thing you're going to use off a BMX bike is the handlebars, the front end of the frame, the fork, and the wheel. So what you want to do is do a nice clean cut, and you want to center it and weld it. So you're probably thinking right about now, what's with the paint? Instead of sanding it with sandpaper, I'm doing aircraft paint remover. So while it sits here, it bubbles up the paint, and then the paint falls off, and you go back to bare metal. So all of it was white, and voila, this is, I need to do one more coat to get this stuff off, and then it'll be ready to paint. So I want you guys to weigh in on this new channel and see what I should paint this. So, but that's what I've done so far. That is your next step after you get that rear end built from part 1. Part 2 is to take your BMX bike, cut it there, and cut everything off. And then you're only going to use the front part of the frame right there, handlebars, front forks, and the wheel. So once you get that, put it right here on, we put ours on a 2x4. So that's how high my rims, I want my tires and everything to be once we're done. This is just a genuine mock-up right now. This isn't really what it's going to look like, but so you guys can get a general idea of what it's kind of going to look like right now. But we set it up on a 2x4 to help stabilize it, and then I will be sitting somewhere around here. So you want to level it straight and even, and especially down here, right here, you want it even on both sides, welded all the way around. And you know how you tell if it's even is if you measure from the middle of this to the end of the frame, and then from the middle of this on the other side to the end of this frame, and if the number is even, then you know you have it perfectly centered. You can also use a level as well, but it's kind of hard with this situation because then you can't really clamp it down there. You really have to pay attention and eyeball it. And then you want to put it at the angle you want, depending on your height and leg and everything else. But I'm pretty sure you guys can figure it out. But there is part 2 of how just to do the front end. Next step, it will be axle, rims, engine, and paint. So weigh in on what color this should be painted, and I will see you guys in part 3 as well. I'm trying to decide if I want to keep the BMX handles on here or go with old Harley handles I found, or go with the black set. This one's more stretched out. This one has more of an angle on it. There we go. So I'm not sure which one of those I want to use, or if I want to stick with the BMX bike like everybody else. As well, I'm doing something special with this fender. I'm going to cut this in half, and I'm going to put fenders on mine, just like that. So it's gonna be pretty special and unique for me, but that's just the fender. You don't need to do, that's just something I'm adding. So I will talk to you guys later in part 3.